Next time when you see a bright and glowing lamp, what will come to your mind? Edison, the 10,000 steps that he claimed that he followed for inventing this bulb. There are so many interesting stories, dark secrets behind this bulb. Edison wanted to build a huge laboratory, and he wanted to choose a cheaper area. It was not a great residential area. He chose a place near Menlo Park railway station. Not many people alighted at the railway station because there were not many people who had to get down there to reach their homes. Once Edison invented his light bulb, hundreds of people in the night got down at the railway station, walked towards his laboratory, and looked at that glowing bulb as if they are looking at one of the biggest magics on earth. And one of the 10,000 steps that Edison claimed to have followed is using bamboo fiber as filament instead of tungsten. Tungsten comes now. Bamboo fiber was used as a filament for at least 9 years in the first version of the bulb. And this was not an ordinary process. Edison had first sent William Moore, one of his assistants, to China and Japan to identify native bamboos there, native species of bamboos, and do an experiment with different bamboo fibers which will be good enough for his bulb's filament. So he had to choose for each of these species that he identified. William Moore had to choose bamboos of 1 year grown, 2 years grown, 3 years grown, 4 years grown, 5 years grown for that, and experiment with each of them and write notes as to where he found them in the map. All this. Next, that was working to a degree, but it didn't help beyond a point for glowing for many hours. So Edison decided to send another assistant. This time it was Frank McGowan. Frank McGowan was sent to Southern America on an expedition. So when he went there to the Southern American forests, it was not easy at all. There were hostile tribal groups who tried to attack him. There were travel guides who cheated on him. As a result, he had to live with the same dresses for 98 days in the forest. He had to brave attacks from the wild animals, venomous snakes, and had to manage lots of insect bites, and he was not at the best of himself. He had fever for many days when he lived in the forest. Ultimately, he collected lots of bamboo samples from that forest, and by the time he reached Edison's laboratory, it was 15 months from the time that he had left. So that was the effort. So by the time his health deteriorated, he gave an interview to one of the New York magazines, the Evening Sun. And after that interview, a few months later, this McGowan was not to be seen. People didn't know what happened to him, and he was believed to be dead. Next time, of course, it helped. The South American bamboo shoots helped, but still there were a lot of other species that Edison wanted to experiment with. So this time he identified a village school headmaster. His name was James Colton. James Colton was very excited that Edison called him for an assignment. James Colton wasn't even aware on what kind of assignment it is. As a school headmaster, he decided to travel to forests in the southern Asia to identify bamboo fiber samples. Edison learned things harder way once McGowan's health got affected. So this time he insured James Colton for $1,500. It was a huge amount. In 1800s, it was not an ordinary amount at all. And he paid for his travel expenses. Then James Colton traveled all the way through Suez Canal to Sri Lankan forests, and then came to Kanyakumari, to forests that were there in Chennai, Madurai, Pondicherry, gathered lots of bamboo samples there. He was given a map of the river Brahmaputra, Ganges, Sutlej and their tributaries, so that he could build a raft himself and navigate across different forests. Remember, those times it would have been much harder, right? No highways. So this headmaster he had traveled across to Kolkata, far north, and then to Burma and Malaysia, Singapore, and finally, exactly 1 year later, he reached the place. He first went to his school. He announced with a lot of pride to his students that he has accomplished his mission of coming up with an upgraded version of an electric bulb. So with the same pride, he was celebrated as a hero in the school. So with the same pride, he walked into Edison's laboratory, and Edison was busy doing some other experiment. He went in there and said, "Boss, I've discovered so many varieties of bamboos and so many are working." But Edison gave him a smile and said, "I have invented an artificial carbon. I don't think we would require the bamboos any longer. You can leave them aside, get your payment, and move on." What is the takeaway from this story for our work life? Number one, when we have a larger mission, a larger objective, don't completely depend on others to get it done. Always have your own plan B. Many a times people in organizations get stressed when a work does not get delivered exactly in the same way that they wanted it to happen. If you want a work to be done only in the way that you wanted to get accomplished, then only you should do it. So be tolerant to some perceptions, interpretation issues, mistakes, because what goes around comes around. So when you are tolerant to others' mistakes, then there will be situations when others are tolerant to your mistakes as well. Now, the second point. Remember the BC era, not before Christ, before COVID era. Before COVID, we were different in the way we were working. And after COVID came in, a lot of webinars were coming up. People were enrolling into different kinds of courses, and due to peer pressure and because everybody is doing it, you may have enrolled for some of the paid courses as well. But when you look back today, you may think that they were not so required, or they are not greatly relevant to your career today. It is okay. Edison had spent $100,000 only on research on bamboos. So it is okay if some money is spent, and if you are not able to pursue that path or apply that in your career today, as long as you're chasing a larger objective, it is still good enough. Number three, remember the difficulties that McGowan went through. There were guides who misled him, cheated him. This kind of a thing could happen in organizations as well. You may ask a team for a support, but that team may not have the resources to support at that point of time. So they may mislead you or misdirect you, so that it can make things harder for you. In that case, do not get into an internal turmoil. It is very easily possible that we get stressed with certain tasks getting delayed, with things beyond our control. The most important thing is about the mission that we are working on. Think more about the larger mission that you're working on rather than the smaller tasks which impact you. So next time, I hope you love this story. Next week is going to be the Festival of Lights, Diwali. So next time, when you talk about the electric bulb, don't just refer to Thomas Alva Edison. When you talk about it to your colleagues or talk about the invention of the bulb to your children, don't stop with Thomas Alva Edison. Talk about William Moore. Throw light on McGowan. Throw light on James Colton. Because leaders are not just those who show light to more people. They are those who bring more people to light as well. I hope you love this story. Tune in to Author Venkat YouTube channel for more inspiring messages, and connect with me on Instagram Author Venkat and FB Author Venkat as well. See you next week with yet another inspiring, interesting story. Until then, goodbye.